What if your imaginary friend was never imaginary? So this started when I was 10. I was going through a really hard time in my life after my mom and my brother's dad's divorce. An identity crisis, depression, puberty, existential dread, that kind of stuff. I was living with my grandma at the time while my mom tried to get back on her feet financially. I've never been good with new environments, but I try to be polite and stay out of the way. Unfortunately, this only made my depression worse as I didn't have someone to talk to constantly at home. Yes, I spoke to my mom, but her job was demanding, leaving her busy most of the time. And I didn't have any of my friends' phone numbers since they either didn't have phones or couldn't have them during the week. So I was pretty much alone, not comfortable enough to speak to my grandmother about this stuff. Eventually, I discovered tulpas. Creatures that you create in your mind, and as long as you believe they're real, they pretty much are, to you at least. That's my understanding of them. So lonely and desperate, I created my own. I named him Jeremy. He was made of shadows completely and could travel through them as well. About 610 and having no real age. He had bright white eyes, no mouth, and didn't seem to wear his own clothes, only wearing what I gave him. I believed in him till I was about 10. Which is when my mom finally got me a therapist for my depression and loneliness. I told my therapist about Jeremy, and she told me it's okay to have imaginary friends, but it gets unhealthy when I fully believe in them and even treat them like real people, giving him clothes, sharing my food, etc., and pretty quickly that snapped me out of it. I stopped believing in Jeremy, and for a while he was gone. Until I turned 11, which is the year before everything basically got weird. I was just chilling on my granny's porch, talking to a kid next door who had come to visit, when suddenly I saw something move from the corner of my eye before it quickly disappeared. It was tall, completely black, and from what I could see, male. When I turned my head to look, it just disappeared, as if it was never there. I told the kid and he looked as well, finding nothing. We stood up and went to check. We looked into the open garage and saw two white eyes for like half a second. In case you think it was a rat, yes, we had rats, but they never came out when human voices were around. In fact, most of them were killed by my uncle, and the ones remaining were in the broken fridge. Also, the eyes were high up, like, taller than most men I knew, kinda high. And they were front-facing, so definitely human. But they left as quickly as they came. I told my grandma and she didn't believe me. I was scared and didn't want to be alone, but the kid I was with had to go home since it was already nighttime, so I was left all alone. I went to bed, and at what felt like midnight, I suddenly heard something above me. Footsteps in the attic, but not rats. Human, slow and heavy, like someone tall was walking. I said, "Hey." Yes, I know that would have been stupid if it was a burglar, but I was 11 and slightly dumber than usual, and they suddenly stopped before resuming, stopping just above me. I sat up and stared for a few moments before getting up and going to kitchen, where my box cutter was. I started sleeping with it under my pillow after that. Fast forward to 12 years old. In April, 2 weeks after my birthday on the 4th. I was just sitting on the couch with my mom's brother. We weren't doing much, just existing, when suddenly my mom walked in with my baby brother. She sat down and started explaining that she was something at night. She said she had woken up from the feeling of something watching her. She said it was tall and pitch black. I asked its eye color, and she said white. I finally told her about Jeremy and she was shook. She said it just watched her. Even after she woke up, it just stared, only disappearing when she turned her phone flashlight on. Which, by the way, is how Jeremy functioned. He didn't like light, it didn't hurt him, he just disliked it. And in my head, whenever some kind of imaginary light was on, he'd disappear. At first I tried to brush off what my mom said as her just hallucinating, but she swore on her mom's urn that it was true. And she never swears about that, so it was serious. I tried not to think of it that night, but something was bothering me. Jeremy was a tulpa. He couldn't exist if I didn't believe in him. How could my mom see him? Then I remembered something. Since I live in a place where dark magic and demon summoning actually happens, then it's possible that he could be real. Like, a real creature that I accidentally took in as a friend, and now he didn't want to let me go. I also think that he might be confused my mother for me. Me and my mom look almost identical. People often ask if we're siblings. So maybe he thought my mom was me and ended up watching her instead of me. But then again, I feel Pyle he'd be able to sense my energy. There's no way he would have done it accidentally. So maybe he's stalking my mom to get my attention. I know more about the paranormal than my mom, so every time she tells me about something weird happening to her, I go pretty deep into investigating it. So he might be using my mom to get me to pay attention to him, possibly knowing how involved I get into any supernatural or creepy things that happen to her. I don't know, and I may never know. But if he is real, then I might have accidentally got some kind of entity attached to me while depressed and lonely. And it might be following me everywhere now because I'm currently at my dad's house, and I constantly feel watched even when I'm alone, but I might be paranoid. After all, I am just a kid and kids have wild imaginations. That all for now. Goodbye, good night and good morning.